What is up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing here another deck profile for my grass deck, but with that being said, it is definitely going to be taking on a different direction here. We're trying out a lot of different cards, but of course I am still sticking to Shift Tree in this particular case because I love the actual ability for the fact that it could actually just ruin your opponent's strategies. Locking out their abilities to go into something like a Professor's Research or even Boss's Orders to control your board, you want to take that away from them. Take away their draw power, take away their control of the game itself. In fact, if they are playing Marnie, they could easily disrupt you. Instead, if you have Shift Tree out on the board, you could definitely hinder your opponent quite a bit, which is definitely fantastic. And in this particular build, I'm going to be playing more copies of it, so that will definitely be a lot more devastating for your opponent. They will have no chance whatsoever to try and recover and utilize any of their supporter cards. However, with that being said, let's just begin with this particular deck profile. So as I've already mentioned, we're going to be playing 4 copies here of Shift Tree himself, which means we're going to be playing here at least 2 copies of Nuzleaf, because in this circumstance we actually do need that many copies of it. And we're also going to be playing here the 4 copies of the C-Dot as well. Definitely really amazing to be playing these particular sets of cards here. They work incredibly well, of course, for the deck because you're mainly just going for Shift Tree. And don't worry, we are playing here the rare candy, so it will definitely work out in the end. But with that being said, this is the entire lineup or the ratios you want to follow along with. Yeah, you could always just adjust a bit depending on what you actually want to incorporate into this deck, but I want to maximize the use out of Shift Tree as much as I possibly can. Moving on, we're going to be playing here our 2 supporters or our backup attackers, and that will be Delmize V. I still think this is an amazing card. If anything, it's more crucial than ever, because if this is the main focus of your deck, your opponent's going to want to actually knock this out as soon as possible. When it's knocked out, your Delmize V will definitely be ready to go in its following attack, which would be amazing. And if you can delay for long enough, then you could actually build up enough energy to deal your 200 signature attack, which is quite amazing indeed. Of course, I'm also going to be playing here the Eldegoss V as well. It's also the other really nice supporting Pokemon, which actually can add back your supporter cards, which 1 copy is definitely more than enough to actually do the job. However, as a new addition to the deck, we're going to be playing 2 new Pokemon, well, 1 new Pokemon that is, and we're playing Kricketon V, which is a very amazing card. It's quite interesting because Kricketon V is more so a situational card. It's good in certain circumstances, but it's not always the most played card out there. So essentially, we want to use its ability. So its ability is once during your turn, while this card is actually in the, well, you could actually just draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. And this ability, this first one, is just mainly meant to be while you're on the bench. However, if this is actually in your active zone, you can draw 4 cards instead, meaning you just get 1 additional card, which I think is just really nice. And since this is once during your turn, it's kind of like something you could always, I guess, switch out since you have 2 of them. But yeah, I really like this card. You're going to be expending a lot of your cards really quickly, and that's pretty much how I built this particular deck. You want to get out or play out every single card you have in your hand because they're great resources, and when you have Kricketon out on the field, you could always just draw into more cards anyway. But of course, its attack is also quite decent because it's not too expensive, but it deals an additional 80 if you actually get a heads on a coin flipped, which, although there's a bit of a risk there, it is still quite nice because either way, that's more so a bonus than anything because the ability is already just really good on its own. However, moving on here to some trainer cards, we're going to be playing some searches, of course, and that means we're going to be playing a few Pokeballs. We have over here 4 copies of the Quick Balls, definitely really good, of course, really amazing for the deck, and just searches out almost anything that you actually have. We're also going to be playing here our 4 copies of the Level Ball. We have plenty of cards that are well below 90, even the Nuzleaf, which is the stage 1, is I think 80 HP, so it would be appropriate to search with Level Ball as well. Quite amazing indeed. But of course, since we're playing 4 copies of Shift Tree in this particular deck, we're definitely going to be playing 4 copies here of Rare Candy. There's really not much else to say about this card, it's absolutely crucial at 4 copies. But moving on, for a bit of manipulation of the board and to re-establish control, we have cards like Scoop Up Net, and we also have cards such as the switch as well, which would definitely work out quite well for the deck. And yes, while we're playing a lot less V cards, well, we're playing a lot more V cards and we're playing a lot less basics or non-V cards, non-GX cards. In that particular case, Scoop Up Net at 3 is already kind of a bit much anyway, but it does prevent us from actually taking damage, which would be quite nice. And not to mention, the switch could easily just be, well, switched around, which is definitely nice. For some personal disruption, I thought I'd play 2 Crushing Hammers as well, definitely just really nice for the deck. I'm also playing here 2 copies of Pokemon Communication. Sometimes you just don't have the specific cards you need, and although you have cards like the Level Ball and the Quick Ball to actually search out your cards, sometimes, since they can only search out very specific cards, your Pokemon Communication can allow you to adjust things if something were to go wrong and you needed to change up your strategies, so you might have to search for a different Pokemon. In that case, the Communication can actually save you. But moving on, we're going to be playing here 4 copies of Pokegear 3.0. Definitely a really amazing card. I really emphasize this particular card being played in the deck. It will just search out all your supporter cards that you actually need. However, speaking of supporters, we're going to be playing here 4 copies of the Boss's Orders. I actually just put in 2 different copies. Technically, if you're actually playing in official events, you can't actually use different copies of it. You have to stick to 4 copies of Giovanni, or you stick to 4 copies of Lysander. It's your choice in that case, but you just have to follow that particular rule there. And the only other support I'm playing here is going to be 4 copies of Professor's Research. Just definitely really great for research, for Boss's Orders. It's all you really need for the deck itself, and you could easily just search it out via the Pokegear 3.0. But of course, we now move on to the energy. We're going to be playing here 4 copies of the Aromatic Energy. Absolutely amazing card, of course, very crucial, and just really helps out for a lot of grass decks out there. We're also just playing 4 basics because we can't play more than 4 copies of Aromatic Energy, so it's too bad. It's quite unfortunate for us. And finally, we're going to be playing here the 1 copy of Capture Energy, just because it helps you get out your Pokemon a lot faster onto the board, and it just does the job. However, with that being said, this was essentially the deck profile for this grass deck, so it's purely built to be fun, so don't expect this to be competitive. I'm sure you guys have already figured it out. This deck is built entirely just to enjoy yourself, you know, you want to not always be so fixated on the competitive scene. You don't want to play all these competitive decks. You might be a bit sick of it, you want a change of pace. This is the deck for you. You want to try some different things that most people wouldn't even consider, but they offer a lot of fun, you know. I mean, it's definitely very interesting to experiment with the different interactions of every possible card in a deck. But with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this particular video, then definitely drop a like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you all next time.